Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Think Business. Looking forward to talking with Drew McWilliams. Drew, it's great to see you again, Starting Point Capital. We're going to talk a little bit today, or a lot about today. Your company, you help investors create passive cash flow, time freedom, but also generational wealth. And today we're going to focus on that, really talking about building generational wealth. As we kind of get started, and we've known each other for a bit now, so I'm a business coach, but I work with successful people who are stuck. I get them unstuck. And when it comes to building generational wealth, sometimes the law of proximity of that can seem, for somebody who is starting out with that thought, can seem a little overwhelming. So when it comes to the law of proximity, where do people get stuck, and how do you get them unstuck thinking about that?
Yeah, great. Thanks, John, for having me back on the show. Always a pleasure to speak with you and your audience. Yeah, I think the stuck part comes, you don't know what you don't know. It's kind of one of my favorite terms. Growing up, I'm sure a lot of people can relate. I grew up in, definitely, I would call it lower class, right? I don't even want to call it lower middle class, paycheck to paycheck for a single income mother. They didn't teach me about generational wealth. That wasn't stuck. So I think the ability of not being taught how to create wealth, and let's be honest, how to save what you make so your expenses don't rise at the same rate as your income does, I think is a big turning point for someone to figure that out and to realize how to do that. And I'm happy to be part of that educational piece along the way to give people some options that I have done myself.
So it's interesting you talk about that because, right, so it wasn't really, what I'm hearing you say is it wasn't really talked about around the kitchen table, right? You're talking, paycheck to paycheck and how you grew up. And so maybe I'm going to make an assumption that there wasn't even the space to even talk about that because, but now, where can someone, if someone's listening to this in that same situation and wanting to teach their children about that, where is the 1 minute space to learn, and where's the 1 minute space to infuse that into the conversation?
I love that question so much, John. For me personally, I have two children. They are 11 and 13, about to have birthdays probably by the time this airs. And
it's live, so it's airing now. So
yeah. So their birthdays are next week. The great opportunity for me is by able to drive them to school every day, and I've done it for the last, 8 years now. I get 15 minutes a day that I absolutely have an agenda and teaching them exactly things that you're saying. Let's talk about it. And it's just little snippets and being an entrepreneur and then also being a real estate investor, just passing, my favorite thing is passing by, let's just call it a commercial center. And there's an outlet that's, available, vacant, for sale. I'm like, kids, what do you think it'd be the great business to put in there? And just brainstorming that way. But then also that's the real estate brain of me, the entrepreneurship brain of me, knows that more millionaires have been created in our country, either by real estate or by business ownership. So that's why I'm extremely passionate about both. And by educating my children for 15 minutes a day, just little snippets and little nuggets of, what would be a good business there? Or my children and I have this saying that they have to complete a sentence. And I do this minimum twice a week, every week. I say, when you kids grow up, you can do anything you want as long as you, and then their fill in the blank answer is own the business.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That is great. I love it. I love it. It's so interesting. I want to kind of dive into these conversations you're having with your children because, my kids are now 18 and 21. And when they were 11 and 13, and in those ages, that time in the car is priceless when they're in the back seat. They speak more. You're not necessarily face to face. So there's more, they can open up, be more vulnerable, be more free. And then that changes once they turn 16 and get their license. And so, you just shared a question, but what is, and you talked about kind of going in with intention. So what is one way people can kind of create their own agenda and intention for when they're, when they're driving their kids around or at the dinner table or having those, however they define and can find the space for those moments.
Yeah. And I think it takes a lot of intentional time and planning. I very much intentionally sit down at the end of the day and I recap and I think about my whole day and think about, I love being a little bit of a perfectionist and try to realize how could I have done something better or a conversation I had. But at the same time, I want to pre-plan my next day. And by pre-planning my next day, everybody has a notes app in their phone. In my notes app, I have conversation topics in the car with my children. So I intentionally am planning what I'm talking about. Now, I set it and forget it. I put that list together, probably once a month or every other month. So I'm not doing it daily. I don't want to take that much credit, but it's a daily conversation log that I'm using. So I can open up the notes, at a traffic light and spur conversation topics and ideas. Yeah. And again, it has to be intentional. All of us spend so much time intentionally planning our workday. I think it only takes 10 to 15 minutes to intentionally plan, being a good spouse, being a good father.
It's interesting, Albert Einstein, the story goes that people would ask him his phone number and he would go to the phone book and look it up. And they would say, Mr. Einstein, you're one of the smartest people in the world. How do you not know your own phone number? And he would say, I don't like to waste my brain power with information that's easily accessible. So I do the same thing. I write everything down. And what I like about what you're talking about is the intention of having conversations with your kids, be intentional, keep notes of it. I think it's great. Let's talk about generational wealth in two ways, from a business perspective and from a personal perspective. Let's start off with a business perspective, right? So if we were to do a mini business course and we're talking about building generational wealth right now, let's kind of set the stage that somebody just received a paycheck. Let's make an assumption with the price of groceries and gas that paycheck doesn't go as far as it did, 36 months ago, 24 months ago.
Right.
And so what are three things that person can do to begin the small stages of generational wealth that will ultimately compound? So three quick things that they can do and kind of implement into their world.
So a W-2 wage earner.
Okay. Number two.
Okay.
Hello, you there?
I'm still here.
Can you hear me?
So John, your question is what can a W-2 wage earner do for creating generational wealth?
Yeah.
Okay. The best thing I believe is an IRA. Once you create an IRA through your employer, there's a huge compounding effect by starting early. I think all of us know that. Starting in your 20s is better than 30s. 30s is better than your 40s, and so on and so on. Yeah. So that compounding effect. Now, what you do with that IRA, you, depending on exactly what your employer's limitations might be, you can roll that into something called a self-directed IRA. There's different custodians around the country that can do that. Once you roll it into a self-directed IRA, which is not very publicized and known about because the big financial arms don't want you to move money out of their financial banks, then you have the ability to use that to start a business, invest in real estate, invest in antiques or assets of things that you believe are of value and of interest to you.
Yeah.
And what I love about that is it's in your control. So you are the one that gets to dictate exactly what to invest in, rather than just picking from a list of maybe 12 different mutual funds.
All right, good. Number two.
Number two for a W-2 wage earner is, I think education is key and power. You'll probably hear me say that either about business ownership or about real estate investing. Listen to podcasts like this. There is so much information that is out there that is free and accessible to everyone. Find something that resonates with you. Again, in the car, when my children aren't in the car, I'm not listening to music. I'm listening to podcasts like yours, John, and I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to surround myself with other smart individuals to try to learn as much information as I can to give me a better head start and leap from where I'm at to where I want to be.
Number three?
Number three is surround yourself with people who you want to emulate. I am a big believer in you are the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with the most. So if you're trying to create generational wealth, surround yourself with people that have done that. So it might not be your exact peer network. So branch out, go to, in my home city of Charlotte, North Carolina, I have been to all different kind of chapters of business owners and investors and this and that. Is it scary to be the new guy and walk right into a room for the first time with 50 people that have been doing this for a long time? Yes. But that is a leap of faith that I encourage people to do, because that's where you're going to have the most contacts. And the older I get in life, it's all about who I know, not what I know anymore.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. 3 things that are kind of so simple, but they're complicated, right? Complicated in the sense of in real time, starting an IRA, a lot of people don't max those out, and sometimes it can be intimidating to expand your network and reach out to people who you gotta make the ask the vulnerable questions to, because maybe you are at a stage where you think you should be further than you are, even though most people don't care if you ask a great question. And so kind of turning that into like a mini life course, right? How what are kind of 3 things that people intrinsically, right, need to kind of like step into their vulnerability and do to kind of move into this space?
Yeah. Great question. I go back to the original 3 things that I said, and in learning more really gives you power, right? Knowledge is power. So I think to get over that vulnerability and be able to step into something new, it definitely takes that education. That's kind of why I tie that back into it. So figuring out exactly what excites you to be able to invest in. For me, that avatar was real estate, and I've been investing in real estate since I was 22 and haven't looked back. So that does it for me. I think that people that if there's a subject matter that interests them, they're probably going to want to learn in it and probably want to invest in it more than, do I have some money in Wall Street? Yeah, but I'm not a day trader. I really can't get behind it. So it's a lot easier for me to dive in and learn and kind of step into something new if I'm a little bit more passionate about the subject matter.
Yeah. Very good. What about number 2?
I'm going to ask you for some tips and advice here. So I would love to tap into your kind of thoughts on this.
So I think sometimes people have a vulnerability of asking maybe people they know who are in their circles. But I think one of the things, and I listen to a lot of podcasts like you do, and I read a lot of books. And one of the things I hear a lot is that people give their name, their email, and their phone number, and they say like, "Hey, reach out if you have any questions." Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times I reach out to those people and ask questions. And one of the things they tell me is, of all the hundreds or thousands of people that have seen or downloaded or heard or this and the other, only a very small, maybe less than 10 people, maybe less than 5 actually reach out.
Take action.
And take action. And so I would suggest reaching out, if you're reaching out to people that you listen to in podcasts, or because podcasts more so than even authors, I think, because they a lot of times they give their content. They want to hear from the people that are listening to them, and not all of them are going to respond, but a lot of them will, especially if they're giving it out. And sometimes it's easier to get kind of the answers there to get you ready to go into the familiar field that you're in, right? Because then the conversation is, hey, I was listening to a podcast and I heard this person speak about X, Y, and Z, and I reached out to them and asked them this. What's your opinion on that? Right. And so I think really kind of take the extra step and do it, because I get so much from my own podcast, but I get so much also from listening to others and reaching out, and taking action on it. And it only takes 5 to 10 minutes.
But you're right. People don't. And I'm thinking about it now myself. I've have the great ability that I get to be on a guest on a podcast every week. Not as good as your show, Jon, just some other ones, but I give my contact information freely and willingly.
Yeah.
Like there is nothing in it for me. There's absolutely nothing in it for me for someone to pick up the phone and me just to tell them 30 minutes about how they can invest in real estate and have passive income.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's ever contacted me, quite honestly. Which is fine. Hopefully they still get education and some information on it to, go their own way. But yeah, you're right. I think that's an actionable item that's easy to do that most people don't take advantage of.
Yeah. And I would say number 3, since you're asking me, is, have set an intent on a daily basis or weekly basis to be proactive. I think a lot of times, there's a reactive mindset that if you're not raised with it, right, you can have it intrinsically, but a lot of times if you're not raised and having somebody push you to be proactive, then you just aren't. And sometimes you wait for the world to come to you. And what I'm suggesting is, don't wait for anybody or anything. Go get it. And sometimes that means you got to call someone or email them, over the course of, 6 to 12 months, 10 to 20 times. And you got to be proactive, and you got to be tenacious. You got to be professional and polite, and, this, that, and the other. But if you want it, go get it, and really tap into what you want, and don't make any excuses, and don't say, well, they didn't call me back. No, just keep on asking and being proactive, and set an intent to build that within yourself. If someone isn't giving it to you, listen to the people that can give it to you, read from the people who can give it to you, and give it to yourself, because that's where change happens, in my opinion.
Listen, I think you aced your 3 questions.
Thank you. So, all right, so good. This has been a good topic on building generational wealth. Let's do a quick speed round. Since we've last talked, and you talked about a podcast or a book that's had a big impact on you.
Yeah. So I just read a book. I went on spring break here recently with my family. Love reading books. It was Shelley's son. It was Grow Smart, Risk Less. That's what I just read. Nice. It's about how to scale a franchise company.
Oh, nice. Oh, that sounds good. All right, good. And best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
Be yourself. I would say my wife tells me that consistently, and I think she's one of the smartest people that I know. Be yourself. Be comfortable in your own skin. Don't try to be someone you're not, because people should like you for who you are. And my favorite quote of all time is never quit. From Winston Churchill.
Finish this sentence. The very first micro step that anybody can take to build generational wealth is
surround yourself with people that have done it before you. Don't surround yourself with people that just talk. Surround yourself with doers.
Love it. Tell people where they can connect with you, learn more about you, etc.
Yeah, I would love to connect with anybody. Hopefully they take advantage of it. My company of startingpointcapital.com. We are a company that helps promote real estate investments that deliver passive income to investors that would like to invest in real estate, specifically in multifamily homes, multifamily apartments around the country, without having to do any of the fixing of the toilets, tenants, and termites. So happy to connect either online, or I'm very big on LinkedIn as well at Drew McWilliams.
I love it. Drew, always great connecting with you. I appreciate your time. Love your insight. Love your wisdom. And I think that was the first time somebody ever, turned my question back to me, but it was fun kind of, doing it. Grateful to have you on the show. Appreciative of all your time. Think community, we talked about a lot of things today to help you get unstuck. But one thing is that I think is worth thinking about is how are you creating generational wealth if you want to do that. And if you want to do that, really think about what that first micro step is. And Drew shared a lot of nuggets. If Drew can help you, reach out to him. If I can help you, please reach out to jondwoskin.com, and all my contact information and tons of resources are there. Drew, great connecting as always. I appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jon.